The Zorathians, a species renowned across galaxies for their technological supremacy, had conquered countless worlds with cold precision. Their armor, resistant to the most extreme temperatures, allowed them to dominate planets where other species would freeze solid. Confident in their superiority, they turned their gaze toward Earth, a planet they deemed primitive and insignificant. Their arrogance was palpable as they prepared to launch their ground assault, choosing to strike in Earth's most unforgiving environments, the vast, snow-covered regions where they believed their cold-resistant armor and advanced weaponry would ensure a swift and decisive victory. The Zorathians descended upon the icy wilderness, their landing craft slicing through the frozen air like blades. They moved with mechanical efficiency, their advanced machinery carving paths through the snow as if it were nothing. To them, this was merely another conquest, a routine operation where their superiority would go unchallenged. They expected resistance, of course, but nothing that could stand against their technological might. Their generals, confident in their strategy, anticipated that the humans would crumble in the face of their overwhelming power, especially in such a hostile environment. But Earth was not as defenseless as they believed. Humanity had faced countless trials over the centuries, and in doing so, had become masters of survival. The icy landscapes the Zorathians saw as their advantage had long been home to those who thrived in the cold, those who had learned to turn the harshness of the environment into an ally rather than an enemy. Among these were Earth's elite sniper units, soldiers trained in the art of stealth and precision, whose skills had been honed through generations of conflict in some of the most challenging conditions known to man. These snipers, invisible to the naked eye, had already taken their positions, blending seamlessly into the snow-covered terrain. They were not just soldiers, they were ghosts in the frost, moving silently and methodically, their presence undetectable even to the most advanced technology. The Zorathians, in their arrogance, believed their cold-resistant armor would make them invincible, not realizing that the very environment they thought they controlled would be their downfall. The snipers struck without warning. A single shot, almost imperceptible in the frozen air, took down a Zorathian soldier, the sound muffled by the snow. Another shot, another soldier down. The Zorathians were unaccustomed to this kind of warfare where the enemy was unseen, where death came silently and without warning. Panic began to ripple through their ranks as more soldiers fell, their advanced armor proving useless against the precision of the human snipers. The alien generals, who had so confidently predicted an easy victory, found themselves grappling with an unexpected and terrifying reality. Their forces were being decimated by an enemy they could neither see nor locate. The snow, which they had believed would give them an advantage, was now their greatest adversary. Every drift, every shadow could be hiding a human sniper, waiting to take another life with a single, silent shot. The Zorathians' initial confidence began to waver as they realized the extent of their miscalculation. They had underestimated humanity, not just in terms of technology, but in terms of adaptability and resilience. The humans were not just surviving in the cold, they were using it as a weapon, turning the environment against the invaders in a way the Zorathians had never anticipated. As more and more Zorathian soldiers fell, the fear within their ranks grew. The snipers were methodical, relentless, and terrifyingly effective. Each shot was a calculated strike, each target carefully chosen to sow maximum confusion and chaos among the alien forces. The humans were not fighting like a conventional army. They were conducting guerrilla warfare with a precision and ruthlessness that the Zorathians had never encountered before. The alien generals, once so sure of their superiority, now faced the grim reality that their technological advantages were meaningless in the face of such tactics. The snipers had turned the very landscape into a weapon, using the snow and cold to their advantage in ways the Zorathians had never anticipated. The tension among the alien ranks was palpable as they realized they were not just fighting an enemy, they were fighting a force that had mastered the environment they themselves had sought to control. The Zorathians had come to Earth expecting a quick and decisive victory, but what they found was a battle they were not prepared for. The humans, far from being the primitive species they had dismissed, were proving to be a formidable and cunning opponent. The alien generals, once so confident, now faced the terrifying possibility that they had underestimated their enemy, and that their invasion of Earth might not be the triumphant conquest they had envisioned, but a battle for survival against a foe they had thought beneath them. The snow-covered landscape, which the Zorathians had believed would grant them dominance, had become a deadly battlefield where their technology and armor were rendered useless by human ingenuity and expertise. The silent strikes of the snipers, the ghosts in the frost, were turning the tide of the invasion, leaving the Zorathians reeling and their generals questioning whether they had made a fatal mistake in underestimating the resilience and resourcefulness of humanity. The snipers were more than just marksmen. They were masters of their environment, merging seamlessly with the snow-covered landscape. They understood every nuance of the terrain, every drift of snow, every shadow cast by the winter sun. The snow itself became their ally, a vast white canvas upon which they could disappear, unseen and undetectable. They used the natural cover to perfection, setting up in the most unexpected places, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Whether it was a snowdrift, the boughs of a tree laden with ice, or the edge of a frozen lake, they found positions that no technology could easily detect. Their rifles, equipped with suppressors, spoke only in whispers, and by the time the Zorathians realized they were under attack, it was already too late. For the Zorathians, this was warfare unlike any they had ever encountered. Their commanders, clad in cold-resistant armor and brimming with confidence, were suddenly falling, one by one, to an enemy they couldn't see. There were no gunshots echoing across the battlefield, no flashes of light to betray the snipers' positions, only the cold silence of death. Each loss felt like a stab in the dark, creating an atmosphere of fear and paranoia among the alien troops. The psychological impact was profound. An enemy they couldn't engage or even detect was systematically dismantling their command structure. The confidence that had once defined the Zorathian invaders began to erode, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The realization that they were being hunted, not by advanced machines, but by humans using nothing more than the land and their wits, shook them to their core. Frustration mounted among the alien generals. They had expected resistance, but nothing of this sort. Their initial attempts to flush out the snipers with traditional tactics, sweeping formations, concentrated firepower, proved futile. The snipers were ghosts, vanishing into the snow as quickly as they had appeared. Every time the Zorathians thought they had a lead, another commander would fall, and the humans would slip away, leaving nothing but empty snow and the lingering scent of gunpowder. Desperate to turn the tide, the Zorathian generals resorted to technology, their greatest strength. They deployed heat-seeking drones, sophisticated machines designed to detect the body heat of any living creature hidden in the snow. These drones, with their advanced sensors and rapid mobility, were supposed to be the solution, the perfect counter to the invisible threat. But the humans had anticipated this move. They understood the Zorathians' reliance on technology, and had prepared accordingly. In the dead of night, they deployed decoys, small, heat-emitting devices scattered across the battlefield. These decoys were placed with meticulous care, each one positioned to lure the drones away from the snipers' true locations. The strategy worked flawlessly. As the drones descended, they homed in on the decoys, mistaking them for human soldiers. The Zorathians, eager to neutralize the threat, unleashed a barrage of firepower on the false targets, only to find themselves shooting at empty snow. Meanwhile, the real snipers remained hidden, their true positions undiscovered, watching as the Zorathians wasted precious resources and time. With every drone diverted, the humans gained the upper hand, maintaining their lethal advantage. The decoy strategy not only protected the snipers but also deepened the alien generals' desperation. Each failed attempt to locate and eliminate the snipers drove home the terrifying reality that they were losing control. The Zorathians, once so confident in their superior technology, were being outmaneuvered at every turn by a foe they had underestimated. The invisible strikes continued, each one more devastating than the last. Commanders were killed in rapid succession, leaving the alien forces leaderless and in disarray. As the Zorathians' ranks thinned, the snipers grew bolder, their success emboldening them to take even greater risks. They moved with silent precision, striking from new angles, never allowing the aliens a moment of respite. The Zorathians' response became increasingly frantic, their once coordinated efforts devolving into chaos. What had begun as a calculated invasion was turning into a slaughter, the snipers picking off their targets with terrifying efficiency. The humans had not just turned the battlefield to their advantage, they had turned the entire invasion on its head. For the Zorathians, the battlefield had become a nightmarish trap, with every movement potentially their last. Their greatest leaders were falling, and with each loss, the hope of victory faded further. The humans, once seen as inferior beings, were now the hunters, and the Zorathians, the hunted. Each sniper, hidden in the snow, represented a deadly threat, an unseen executioner delivering silent death. The realization dawned too late for the alien invaders. They were facing an enemy who had perfected the art of guerrilla warfare, an enemy who knew how to use the land to their advantage, and who had the patience and skill to win a battle not through superior firepower, but through superior strategy and sheer will. The snipers' advantage was not just in their ability to kill, it was in their ability to instill fear, to make the Zorathians doubt their every move, to make them question their very presence on this planet. And as the snipers continued their relentless assault, the truth became inescapable for the alien generals. They were not just losing a battle, they were losing their grip on what they thought they knew about war. The Zorathians, driven by desperation, realized their conventional strategies were failing. Their advanced weaponry, so effective on countless other worlds, was proving useless against an enemy that seemed to melt into the very environment. The frustration grew unbearable as they watched their forces dwindle, one sniper shot at a time. In their arrogance, they believed that overwhelming power would break the humans, but the reality was far different. Faced with an enemy they could not see or predict, they decided to change the battlefield itself. They turned to a weapon of last resort, a weather-altering device capable of unleashing a storm of unprecedented ferocity. The plan was simple: create chaos in the already harsh environment, hoping to flush out the human snipers by rendering their natural camouflage useless. With the push of a button, the skies darkened, and a massive snowstorm began to form. Winds howled through the mountains and plains, whipping the snow into blinding sheets that covered the land in a deep freeze. The Zorathians believed they had finally found a way to turn the tide, confident that the humans would be lost in the storm, their accuracy and stealth nullified by nature itself. The storm grew in intensity, turning the battlefield into a frozen hellscape. Snow and ice battered the ground, visibility dropped to near zero, and the temperature plummeted to unbearable levels. The Zorathians huddled in their armored suits, believing that they had outmaneuvered the humans at last. They expected to see panicked movements, to detect signs of retreat or disarray among the human ranks. But what they didn't anticipate was humanity's remarkable adaptability, a trait that had allowed them to survive and thrive in conditions far worse than this. The human snipers, far from being disoriented, had anticipated such a move. They had learned to expect the unexpected, to remain calm in the face of adversity. As the storm raged, they activated their advanced thermal vision, a tool that allowed them to see through the blinding snow as if it were a clear day. To them, the storm was not an obstacle but an opportunity. The thick snow provided even better cover, masking their movements more effectively than before. The wind carried away any sound, making their presence even more ghostly. The Zorathians, blinded by the very storm they had unleashed, became easy targets. With their superior knowledge of the terrain, the snipers moved like shadows through the storm, undeterred by the freezing temperatures and violent winds. They used the natural contours of the land to navigate, understanding every rise and dip, every patch of ice that could support their weight. Their shots, muffled by the storm, found their marks with deadly precision. The alien troops, struggling to maintain cohesion in the face of the storm's fury, fell one after another, unable to defend themselves against an enemy they could neither see nor hear. The Zorathian generals, who had once been so confident in their technological superiority, now found themselves in a nightmarish situation. The very tools they had counted on to dominate the battlefield were turning against them. The storm, meant to disorient the humans, had only disoriented their own troops. The snipers, instead of being hindered, were thriving in the chaos. Panic began to spread among the alien ranks as they realized that their leaders were being picked off with terrifying efficiency. Every attempt to regroup, to form a coherent defense, was met with failure as the snipers exploited every weakness. Morale among the Zorathians plummeted. The alien commanders, once symbols of invincibility, were now targets, hunted in the very environment they had sought to control. Their troops, blinded and freezing, were losing the will to fight. The storm had become a symbol of their desperation, a last-ditch effort that had backfired spectacularly. The realization that their advanced technology, which had always been their greatest strength, was useless against human adaptability, hit them hard. The humans were not just surviving the storm, they were using it to their advantage, turning the Zorathians' final gambit into yet another tool for their own victory. In a final, desperate attempt to regain control, the Zorathian forces tried to launch an all-out assault, hoping to overwhelm the snipers with sheer numbers. But it was too late. The snipers, using the storm as cover, picked them off before they could even form a coherent strategy. The Zorathians, once an unstoppable force, were now a broken army, their last hope of victory slipping away with every shot fired from the hidden rifles of the human defenders. The battlefield, once envisioned as the site of their triumph, had become a frozen graveyard, littered with the bodies of those who had underestimated the resilience and ingenuity of humanity. As the storm began to subside, the full extent of the Zorathians' defeat became clear. Their once mighty invasion force had been reduced to a few scattered survivors, leaderless and lost in a world they could no longer hope to conquer. The human snipers, emerging from the snow, stood victorious, having not only survived the storm but mastered it. The Zorathians had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but what they found was a lesson in humility and a reminder that in the end, it is not always the strongest or the most advanced who win, but those who can adapt, endure, and outthink their opponents. The Zorathian generals, once so assured of their dominance, now faced the harsh reality that they had been outmatched by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The storm, meant to be their salvation, had only hastened their defeat. The humans had shown them that no amount of technology could substitute for the will to survive, the ability to adapt, and the determination to protect one's home. The battle was over, and the Zorathians had lost, not just to superior tactics, but to a force they had never truly understood, the indomitable spirit of humanity. The Zorathian general, the last of his kind still standing, knew the mission had gone disastrously wrong. Yet, in the face of overwhelming losses and a battlefield that had become a death trap, he refused to concede. His pride, his belief in the supremacy of his race, wouldn't allow him to retreat. Rallying what remained of his forces, he steeled himself for one final assault, a desperate attempt to turn the tide before everything was lost. He ordered his troops to press forward, determined to crush the human resistance in one decisive strike. But the human snipers, anticipating this last-ditch effort, were ready. They had used the storm to their advantage, laying traps and ambushes throughout the frozen landscape. Every approach was covered, every possible path a potential death sentence for the Zorathians. The snipers had spent years mastering the art of war in these conditions, and now they applied that knowledge with ruthless precision. As the alien forces advanced, they found themselves walking into a labyrinth of death. The snipers, invisible and lethal, struck with a cold efficiency, their bullets finding their marks as if guided by fate itself. The Zorathians pushed forward, but their efforts were met with relentless resistance. Every step they took was paid for in blood. The snipers, unseen and unheard, dismantled their ranks one by one. The general watched in horror as his forces were decimated, his soldiers falling without ever laying eyes on the enemy. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, ghosts in the snow who struck without warning and then disappeared back into the white void. The general's frustration grew, but he pressed on, his determination morphing into desperation. The tension mounted as the Zorathian general realized he was running out of time, out of troops, and out of hope. He was the last commander left, and the burden of the entire invasion rested on his shoulders. But the humans were relentless, using their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver him at every turn. It became a deadly game of cat and mouse, with the general desperately trying to outthink an enemy that always seemed to be one step ahead. The storm, still raging, masked the movements of the snipers, making them even harder to detect. The general knew he had to strike at the heart of their defense, but every attempt was thwarted. The humans had turned the entire battlefield into a trap, and the Zorathians were caught in it, with no way out. The general's forces dwindled, and the realization that he was losing the battle, and with it, the war, began to settle in. In the midst of the chaos, the general found himself isolated, his troops scattered or dead. The silence around him was deafening, broken only by the howling wind and the occasional crack of a sniper's rifle. He knew it was only a matter of time before they came for him. He tried to steel himself, to focus on the mission, but the fear was creeping in. The humans had proven to be more than just a nuisance. They were predators, and he was their prey. Then, in a moment of eerie calm, it happened. A single shot, silent and precise, pierced the air. The Zorathian general, so focused on trying to find his enemy, didn't see it coming. The bullet found its mark, and the general fell, his mission finally brought to an end by a force he had never truly understood. The shot was more than just the end of a life. It was the end of an invasion, the final, undeniable proof of humanity's triumph. With the general's fall, the remaining Zorathian forces, leaderless and broken, had no choice but to retreat. They fled the battlefield, abandoning their mission in the face of insurmountable odds. The storm began to clear, revealing the devastation that had been wrought by a handful of human snipers, soldiers who had turned the tide of war not with superior numbers or technology, but with cunning, skill, and an unyielding will to survive. As the humans emerged from their hidden positions victorious, there was no celebration, only a quiet acknowledgement of what had been accomplished. They had faced an enemy that believed itself unbeatable and had proven that even the most advanced technology was no match for human ingenuity and determination. The battlefield, now littered with the remains of the Zorathian forces, stood as a testament to the power of adaptability, to the ability to turn even the most dire circumstances to one's advantage. The significance of the battle was clear. The Zorathians had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, but what they found was a fight they could not win. The humans, with their knowledge of the land and their willingness to endure, had outlasted and outmaneuvered a superior force. The final shot that took down the Zorathian general was more than just the end of the invasion. It was a symbol of human resilience, a reminder that no matter how powerful the enemy, there is always a way to fight back. In the aftermath, as the snipers began to regroup and the storm finally subsided, the full scope of their victory became apparent. They had not only defended their world but had shown the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The Zorathians had underestimated their enemy, and they had paid the price. The humans had taken on the might of an alien empire and emerged victorious, not through brute strength, but through the quiet, deadly precision of their snipers and the unwavering determination to protect their home. This battle would be remembered not just as a victory, but as a defining moment in humanity's history, a moment when they stood against the darkness and prevailed. The defeat of the Zorathians reverberated across the galaxy, sending shockwaves through every corner of known space. What was meant to be a simple conquest had turned into a humiliating defeat at the hands of a species that the Zorathians and many others had considered primitive. News of the battle spread rapidly, and with it, the legend of Earth's snipers grew. These human soldiers, who had turned a hopeless situation into a resounding victory, became symbols of an unexpected and deadly resilience. Other alien species, some who had once looked down on humanity, began to reevaluate their opinions. No longer could humans be dismissed as a minor annoyance. They were now seen as a force capable of defeating even the most advanced invaders through sheer ingenuity and determination. The reputation of Earth's snipers transcended the boundaries of their home planet, becoming the stuff of legend. Among the human populace, stories of their precision, their patience, and their ability to blend into the harshest environments were told and retold, each tale more awe-inspiring than the last. The snipers were no longer just soldiers. They were mythic figures, silent protectors who had stood between Earth and annihilation. But it wasn't just humans who told these stories. Even among alien species, whispers of the snipers' victories began to circulate, filling the galaxy with a newfound respect and fear, of the human race. The Zorathians, in particular, were haunted by the memory of their defeat, knowing that what they had once seen as an inferior species had brought them to their knees. The psychological impact on the Zorathians was profound. Their once unshakable confidence in their superiority was shattered. They now knew that humanity was capable of much more than they had ever imagined. The thought of engaging humanity in battle again filled them with dread, a fear rooted not in the might of human technology, but in the skill, adaptability, and cunning that had turned the tide of war against them. The Zorathians had learned a harsh lesson: underestimating humanity was a grave mistake, one they were unlikely to make again. As the snipers returned to their hidden bases, there were no grand parades or elaborate ceremonies awaiting them. They were welcomed back as heroes, but they remained humble, knowing that their true role was not to seek glory but to serve as the silent guardians of their world. They were acutely aware of the cost of victory, the lives lost, the sacrifices made. Each sniper carried the weight of those who had fallen, their memories a constant reminder of the price of war. These soldiers, who had achieved the unthinkable, knew that their work was far from over. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's survival was ongoing, and they would remain ever vigilant, ready to protect their home from any future threats. The reflections on the battle were somber, with a focus on the immense toll it had taken. It was a victory, yes, but one stained with the blood of those who had given everything to defend their world. The human snipers, though triumphant, could not forget the comrades who had not returned. Their victory was a testament to human strength and resilience, but it was also a stark reminder of the horrors of war. As they prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, they carried with them the lessons learned on that frozen battlefield: the importance of unity, of using every resource at their disposal, and of never underestimating the enemy. Looking to the future, humanity stood stronger, more unified, and more prepared to face the unknown. The battle against the Zorathians had not just been a fight for survival, it had been a crucible that forged a new understanding of what it meant to be human. The snipers' legacy was not just their victory, but the knowledge that, when pushed to the brink, humanity could rise above even the most formidable of foes. The lessons of the battle would guide them in the years to come, making them more vigilant, more adaptable, and more aware of the ever-present dangers lurking in the cosmos. The story of the snipers was one of quiet determination, of skill honed to perfection, and of a willingness to do whatever it took to protect their world. Their actions had shown that knowledge, strategy, and the will to survive could overcome even the most advanced technology. It was a powerful reminder of the enduring spirit of humanity, a spirit that could not be broken, no matter the odds. The galaxy had been put on notice. Humanity was not to be trifled with, and any who sought to challenge them would do well to remember the fate of the Zorathians. In the end, the story of the snipers was one of cautious optimism. Humanity had faced a terrifying threat and emerged victorious, but the battle had left its mark. They were now more vigilant, more aware of the dangers that lay beyond the stars, but also more confident in their ability to protect what was theirs. The snipers' legacy would live on, not just in the stories told by those who remembered the battle, but in the resolve of every human who stood ready to defend their world. The future was uncertain, but with the lessons of the past guiding them, humanity was prepared to face whatever came next. The snipers had shown that no matter how advanced the enemy, there was always a way to win, through unity, adaptability, and an unbreakable will to survive.